Hello there, my name's Vinny Voodoo, and if you clicked on this video, you will have seen the inflammatory title I'm almost certainly going to put on it, and also a picture for Warzone. So you may be asking, why are we in Fallout 4? Very good question. Before I go into that, and since the creation card is loading here, I just wanted to say hello to my new subscribers. I've had quite a few in the last few days. One of the things I don't do in my videos is say the stupid like, comment and subscribe, but it doesn't mean I don't appreciate it when people do. So with that said, the reason I'm going into the Creation Club, which if you're unfamiliar with Fallout 4 is in fact the store, so you can buy little bits of DLC using actual cash. The reason I'm going here is I just want to show you this Hellfire power armor. No, not that one. The armor paint job, Hot Rod Flames. There we go. It's currently free, 100% off, and you can't argue with that. But normally it'd be 100 in-game currency, whatever that is. I think it's probably about $1 or a pound, depending on where you live. The reason I'm showing it is because when you look at that picture there of the Hot Rod Flames, and indeed the gallery, as it shows you the various bits and pieces that you're going to get, it's showing you the gallery in game. So it's a fair representation. It may be ridiculously priced. Most of the stuff in Fallout is, especially Fallout 76, but it's not misrepresented. You know what you're paying for and what it's going to look like in game. Is that true of the operators in Warzone, or indeed Cold War? Well, let's get down to it, because that's the purpose of this video. Are Activision actively conning us? So without further ado, let's jump over to Warzone. We slip into Warzone like we slip into an old friend. I probably should have worded that a bit better. Before I begin, I want to say that whilst this isn't my usual Warzone type video where I look at differences in texture packs, there are going to be comparisons, and I'm going to start that right now because something I've pointed out previously is operators in Cold War generally look better than their Modern Warfare counterparts, despite the fact that, in my opinion, Modern Warfare is a significantly better engine than the Cold War engine. And not necessarily look better, but they have better movement. If you look at the operator I have here, Naga, and we'll bring him in. I have no idea what he's doing there. I'll turn him to the right, and in the game here, you can see the little teeth don't move and his bandana doesn't move, along with a lot of other stuff. I'll cut to the Cold War equivalent in the operator select screen, and I'll kind of zoom out a bit. Is that as far out as I can go? Yeah. And try and get him sort of in the same position. And you can see clearly in the Cold War version, the teeth move and his bandana moves. The bandana moving will come into discussion in a bit. So we have a situation where you could potentially buy an operator in Cold War that doesn't look as good in Warzone when you come to play Warzone. See, the thing about Warzone is it's a bit like a black hole. It's a vacuum. It sucks in all the other games. When the new Call of Duty comes out, presumably the operators and guns from that will be playable in Warzone, but it's not the other way around. You can't take an operator from Warzone, say for example one that's from Modern Warfare, or gun, and play it in Cold War. It only goes inwards towards Warzone. And since Warzone's the game I play most, I have to use that as the litmus. I have to use that as the pH paper that says this is this is what you're paying for, and this is what you get when you pay for it. But it isn't, is it? Because his bandana does not move there. It's completely static. They have not bothered programming in cloth. But there is cloth in Modern Warfare, so I'm not quite sure why that is. But that's the state of play there. Now, I want to move to another game, and we'll go straight to that now because it's very, very pertinent when it comes to cloth. So why don't we take a look at that? And so the game I want to use as an example of a character in-game looking exactly the same as their operator equivalent selection is Assassin's Creed Unity, an older game I might add. And here's my character here, and I can change the color of him and obviously all of his clothing, and you'll notice that he has kind of like a bandana tied around his waist, and he's got some tails there coming off the back of his coat jacket. And he also has a gun on his back. And if I go into game, so we'll exit out of that, you see he's got all of that true as well. If I walk, you can see the cloth on his waist moving there. And you'll also notice that the NPCs have cloth on them as well. And they're not nearly as detailed as your main protagonist there, but they're still detailed. And if I turn around, you'll see the guns kind of like moves. See if I can get him in the light there. There we go. And this is an older game. What's it, 5 years old, 6 years old? And maybe people are going to say, well, Warzone has more characters in it. Warzone has more data to send. And I understand Warzone is a multiplayer game, and for the most part, this is a single-player game. But I'm talking more about the graphical degradation of the character, which, in theory, you know, I mean, how many people do you have with you at any one time? 2 or 3 of your cohorts, and then maybe 2 or 3 bad guys? I want to show you how many people can be on screen in this game, and it deals with it. So we'll come up here. And there's a bit of a protest going on here. How many NPCs are in here? Each one has cloth. Each one has movement. And this isn't the busiest area of the game. And it's just phenomenal. They're not just here, but they're all the way in there, look. So if a 5-year-old game engine can deal with this amount of NPCs, with cloth, and moving bits and pieces, and your main protagonist can look as good as he does in the character select screen, I think it's not acceptable, again, this is just my opinion, that the characters that you see in the operator select screen of Warzone, and they're inferior to the characters that you see in the operator select screen of Cold War, that those characters can't look like that in-game. If this game engine can handle it, look at the cloth on his back. There, then I see no reason why the Warzone engine can't handle it either. But maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to hear your opinion on this, specifically on Assassin's Creed. Was that a good example? Probably not, but I thought it was one that deserved a look. And apart from anything else, this game just looks great. So we'll cut back to Warzone. Before we do, I just found this area here. And you know, I said there were more areas with even more NPCs, and I saw this little crowd here, and then you kind of pan over and you see this lot. It's just insane. And he's still got his flowing cloth without any problem, although he seems to have a problem walking on that wall. I notice the cloth kind of reacts to, like the wall that I'm sitting on. If you see the cloth kind of folded over, if I move, it kind of like reacts to the objects that you're standing on. I'm trying to show it. Sometimes it doesn't get it right, but it does do it. Anyway, look at that amount of people there. It's incredible. I've never seen that many NPCs in a game before. Anyway, sorry about that. Yeah, let's cut back to Warzone. And so where are we? Well, I've put 2 massively popular games on, Fallout 4 and Assassin's Creed, in this case Unity, and shown that the characters in-game can look as good as they do in the game select screen. And that's, let's be honest, where you're choosing to buy whatever it is, the hat, or in the case of Warzone and Black Ops, you choose an entire skin and you buy it. So the 3 parts of a contract, which in contract law is offer to treat, meeting of minds, and the successful completion of a contract. The offer to treat is, for example, a shop window. And we're going to use that as an example here. The operator screen is a shop window, as is the store. So let's go to the store, since that's where you specifically do spend CP, which you buy with real cash. I'm going to go to one of the packs here. Let's say Zane. And you get this guy here. It's a skin for an operator. And here it is. And funny enough, before I go any further, I did actually look at this guy. And I just want to show this clip now. And it took forever for it to resolve while I was just doing my little bit of research, as you can see here. And that shows you one of the benefits of downloading the texture packs, because had the textures for this particular operator been on my hard drive, it wouldn't have looked the way it did. Clearly, they do not have multiple layers of resolution to send to your machine. If they're sending it over the internet and the server kind of like isn't fast enough, that's what it looks like until it is. It's just a little aside there. I just thought it was funny that I'm doing a non-texture pack based video, and yet here it is. Clearly, if the next texture pack 4 includes these textures, that shouldn't happen, but it did. Another interesting thing about this particular character is look at the gleam off that guy's back. I mentioned in the previous video about texture pack 3 that I thought they'd increase the lighting. And this guy's sheeny little puffet jacket there is definitely catching the light there and giving quite a lot of bloom. It's probably going to look terrible in the YouTube compression that comes with putting a video on YouTube. But the point of this is to show that this is an offer to treat. This is the shop window. This is the part where, oh, look at his fancy pants. Oh, those are pants that I'd wear. Yes, this is something they're saying, buy this bundle and you'll get this guy, and this is what he's going to look like in game. Because if they're not saying that, that's what they're saying, if you see what I mean. At no point does it say on the screen right now, not representative of in-game graphics, and yet it isn't representative of in-game graphics. So it's safe to assume that that's what I'd look like had I spent, what is it, 2,000, which is what, £18 or $20 or something like that. And you get all the rest of it too. And in this video, by the way, I'm only targeting operators, not so much targeting the guns and saying that that's unacceptable, because when you're walking with a gun in front of you, you can actually see it, and it does seem to have, as I showed in Texture Pack 3 video, the same resolution, or at least close to it, that you see in the gun select screen. So I'm not going to target this one. This is probably what the gun looks like as you're carrying it. That's a pretty nice gun as well. I do like that pack. If this guy looked like that in game, I'd probably buy this pack. But it doesn't. So the offer to treat is, this is what you're going to get when you spend the money and go play it in game. So that's the meeting of minds. We both understand, me and Activision, that if I give them $20, they're going to give me this character to play in game. The problem is it won't look like this, but they're not saying that. That's the problem under contract law, is I could genuinely say I didn't get what I paid for. The in-game character is not fit for purpose. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I have owned a graphics company for over 20 years, and believe me, you have to represent what you're selling is what people are going to get. Otherwise, you get returns. The problem is with digital items, there's no real recourse apart from to sue. And you're going to say, well, it doesn't matter, everyone expects it to look worse. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's a fair comment. I certainly wouldn't accept the degradation that you get in this game from that character that's on screen right now to what you get in game. Say, for example, I wouldn't accept that in Fallout 4. I would expect to see what I was just sold is on my guy. And you're going to say, well, I don't think... And by the way, when I say you're going to say, I'm just trying to preempt any comments. I'm not trying to second-guess anyone, and you can absolutely have a completely different opinion. But I'm trying to explain why I've come to this conclusion, not why you should. But the cloth on his coat, for example, it wouldn't send that as you're playing the game. What I mean by that is the game would send the least amount of data possible for each of the 100+ players in any one game. So for an operator, a character, an enemy, or your buddies in your party, it would probably send X, Y, and Z position, which would give your position in 3D space. What you're wearing, which would be something like Operator 9.1, which say this is Operator 9 and the outfit is 0.1. The game would then go and look for it on the hard drive. If it can't find it, it would then go online to download it, and then it would do things like animate the legs locally. Like, for example, the game's not sending the position of people's legs as they run. It's just sending a little dot and the dot's position. So it's important to realize that all of the cloth rendering is done locally, or at least should be done locally. So there's no reason why it couldn't have cloth in-game that looked like Assassin's Creed that I showed earlier. No reason at all. Look at all the NPCs that were on screen whilst it was doing that cloth calculation on a game that's 5 years old. And it would also mean that if, say, you had 3 people in your party and you had one guy in the middle and 2 people looking on, and he was spinning around on the spot, we'd all see a slightly different version of the cloth. It wouldn't matter if it didn't quite match up with each viewpoint, because it's a bit of pretty. It's just something nice to look at. So in theory, an operator in this game should be able to have a massive flowing cape. And we know the game doesn't do that. And either the engine can't deal with it, or, and I think this is more likely, is they are spending so much time building new operators and new skins for the operators, they can't incorporate the various little bits and pieces that those operators would have in game. So, like the bags that can't cross each other on his leg and stuff like that, or that swinging canister that he's got by his side, that all has to be taken into account so it doesn't like glitch into each other and clip. It does, funny enough. You can see clipping all the time on this, but that limits their ability. They can't actually do a real cloth simulation. It's close, but it's not that smart. But none of that matters. The only thing that matters is what they're showing, what you get in game. No. I don't know what to say. I think they have to do one of two things. They have to put a disclaimer when you're going to spend actual money that this was not what you're going to see in game, or they have to degrade the actual operator select screen and the store to truly represent what you do see in game. Are they going to do that? I doubt it. The problem is if you don't keep an eye on these companies, and this is what people are going to say, it doesn't matter. Well, that attitude unfortunately gets you loot boxes. We have to hold companies accountable and say, if this is what you're telling me, this guy looks in game, then I expect to be able to walk up to my buddy who's wearing this suit and it looks like that. Okay, what's wrong with his hand? What? I know recently they changed the oh wow, that is bad. They changed it so that they were doing proper gun etiquette with regards to the trigger action, because for up until recently sorry, that's great. Up until recently, the operators had their fingers on the trigger, which would be totally unacceptable. It's not something any soldier would learn. Oh, there you go, switched over. I did do a whole lot more waffling, and I've cut that all out. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Maybe I'm totally out of line here. I do think that it's worth talking about, because I've noticed a couple of websites are now saying how inferior the Modern Warfare equivalent is, and I'm assuming they're not talking about textures. They are talking about the fact that the movement is less. Like I say, the teeth on that guy's head, it seems so minor, and it all adds up to be so minor. But if you go to investors.activision.com, and Activision is a publicly traded company, you will find that Activision makes between $8 and $10 million per day from Warzone alone. They have 111 million MAUs, which is monthly active users, all of which Activision look at like their wallets. And we have to hold them accountable. We have to. Like I say, loot boxes is the next stage. And thankfully, and smartly, Activision with this game went, there is no pay to win. There's been a couple of glitches on that, but there is no pay to win. And any gun you've got, no matter what the skin is in terms of the blueprint, all that does is fast track you down the gun. It may look different and it may look pretty, but it's not a better gun. You can't buy a better gun, technically, in this game. You can only buy a quicker way of getting to the better gun. So I'm a big fan of that, and I'm a big fan of Warzone, and I've never spent any money on it. So maybe I shouldn't even have a say. But I think we have to say, at some point, is it acceptable? And if you all think it is, I promise I'll never make another video about it, and I'll never mention it again. But I'd like to think that at least 2 or 3 people who watch my vids would say, yeah, you know what, now that I think about it, why are we buying these operators? Because in game they look like they're made of plasticine. And they don't look like that. This is just one man's opinion, and as I said, I'd love to hear yours. My name's Vinny Voodoo, and thanks for watching.